Welcome to the Masterclass. This will be our final one of the 2021 season. And so excited to have our live studio audience. We know that a lot of you are going to be watching this after the fact, especially being the fact that it's April 13th, 21, and we're heading into summer here. So our guest today is Brett Wiggins. And in doing preparation, we do prep calls for all of our guests, but so excited about, as we dove in for an hour, Brett and I were just getting so excited about this time together. And that's not uncommon, I think, as I was talking with Stacy, as I was talking with Larry. I mean, you get great content coming. Dave Powders, Boogie, we had Ketchum on as well. But Brett and I go way, way back. We've been, I've had a front row seat for Brett Wiggins really since 2007 when he started. I was coaching his division manager, Nadine McGowan, at the time, and I'd heard about this Brett Wiggins guy. So really excited to bring a more informal masterclass today. So your questions will drive where this goes, but I also, because I know Brett so well, I'm just going to throw in some fastballs. He's going to know where they are, and he's going to have a little batting practice with everybody here. How about that for a baseball analogy from the Canadian hockey player? All right, so Brett Wiggins, welcome to the Masterclass. Thanks for being here, bud.
Hey, thank you. By the way, I'm sure your coaching through Nadine, it did influence me, but there was no way that you knew about $9,000 first summer as a sales rep, Brett Wiggins, until probably 2008 is when she.
It might have been 08.
She may have brought me up in passing by 08, but yeah, sure.
So you actually started in Kokomo. I didn't realize that until I brought up your bio again here. So Kokomo, why'd you start in Kokomo and not in like a city? Kokomo.
Kokomo, more than a lyric in a Beach Boys song. Yes.
I mean, it's a title of let's go back and watch the movie. Listen.
Yeah. So I was not the top candidate to start. I think every DVM to some level in August or September, they start to think, okay, if we get everybody out, here's where the big players are going to go. And I was not on that list. There was no way I was on that list. And I fought to get toward the top of it by the time that, decisions came around. But but it did serve me well, because now I can tell everybody it's not the territory, it's the manager. And that's really true, So yeah.
Well, what did you sell that first summer in 2008? So you sold one summer, you taught the next.
Yep. Branched and sold about 150.
That's a solid summer, dude.
Yeah, it was great.
What's the population of Kokomo, Indiana?
The territory was probably around 250, 200 somewhere in there.
Well, Canada, that's a city. Okay. I thought Kokomo was like
Kokomo, the city's probably,
New Jersey,
100 or less. I think I threw some money in withholdings, so we added in, make a territory whatever size you want. It's probably the greater Kokomo area, maybe.
All right, so talk to me about working with Nadine McGowan, one of our most prolific female division managers of all time, but working specifically with just a powerful woman like Nadine. What were some of your initial insights and leadership principles that you gleaned from Nadine?
Well,
I'll say things that serve you today, even.
I was going to start there because there's been Shelby Wildgus has been running a couple women in vector, more intimate setting calls with some top performing DMs across, I know at least Eastern half. And two of my DMs reached out and said, hey, Shelby asked me this question. I don't know how to answer it. And it was, why do you think you have so many DMs in your division? Because we have, I think 13 DMs, and I think 6 or 7 of them are female. And she goes, Brett, I'm on this call and everybody else is the only female DM in their entire division. So what do you think we're doing? And I never have a good answer to that question. I think a lot of it is based on the fact that my district manager was female, Nicole Shooter. My division manager was female, Nadine. So I think without, just leading just as well as anybody else I'd ever known, I think that I just don't view it any differently. So I think that's how it's serving me today, and hopefully how it's serving my male and female leaders. But initially, and if you know Nadine, this will not surprise you, the word that comes to mind is just really intense. I mean, just very intense.
Yeah, she wasn't goofing around at
Oh,
work.
no,
She was just about the business, man.
So she had this way of, she could be giving a message at a conference with 1,000 people, and you felt like she was staring right into your soul the entire time. And that was intentional because she was intentional. You know, she wasn't wasting a breath. She wasn't wasting her time. She took any time she had to influence us really, really seriously. So I think I was really drawn to Nadine's just passion for what we do. When I think about within the business specifically, her recruiting intensity was, she was Trey Ketchum before Trey Ketchum. I mean, Nadine's intensity with recruiting, you know, she's the first person I ever heard in my career say, Rita, you know, recruiting is the answer. It does. If you recruit, everything else takes care of itself. So that's, I think, what I got from her initially. And then I think toward the back end of her career, mostly more than ever, was just really genuinely wanting to take care of people. Not that she didn't do that when I was a new manager, but I saw her move in a direction that was putting the person first, and the division or herself second, many times over. So I think those are the things that stuck with me most.
When you say people first, Brett, can you think of a story, a time where you saw her put people first? Maybe it was like even counterintuitive to what you would think we would do in the business. Because I'm agreeing with what you're saying here. I've seen her do this, right?
So I just remember we started to, maybe around when in my second or third full year as a DM, I remember really wanting to run training a little bit earlier in the week, because I really wanted to have a day off on the weekend to be able to see family and friends and whatnot. And for the first time ever in my whole career, somebody let me make a decision, or empowered me to make a decision that could potentially hurt my business, but help me as an individual. And the reality is, if it's helping me as an individual long-term, that's best for the business, isn't it? But we just weren't, I can't speak for everybody. In my experience, in my division, we weren't thinking that way yet. It was now, squeeze it out. And that just never stopped. And that was kind of the first time where I was like, wow, she's really empowering me to do what I think is best for me, regardless of what's the immediate impact of my business. And that kind of led to a lot of other stuff too.
Now, I can't imagine she just gave you a straight pass there. You must have had some convincing to do there. She must have asked you some questions.
There was
just
coaching.
To make sure you're not going to run off a cliff, right?
Sure. Yeah. Oh, don't worry. She was very quick to make sure that didn't happen. But yeah, that was ultimately, if I remember correctly, she left it up to me. And I felt like that. And again, second full year DM, not a brand new branch, not a new pilot or anything like that. So it just felt good to know that, wow, you know, she's trusting me to make the decision based on what I think is best.
So let's talk a little bit about that career track then. So you were new DM after going pilot with Nadine for, it was 1 year, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then you're promoted within 5 years to DVM of Hoosier, which is really remarkable. That's still a pretty quick time. So from 0, 7 years later, you're running a division. And what's that like? I mean, you were a young dude, still in your 20s, running a division. I mean, you're not still in your 20s, are you?
No, I'm glad you had to ask. So full disclosure, a little bit of luck. There's a lot of regions that's not going to happen because there's layers upon layers upon layers upon. So plenty of luck involved in that. Right place, right time. And it was, so I branched, pilot, new DM, first full year DM, kind of had a breakout year once Nadine stepped down and I got to move to the pilot territory, not as a DVM. Mm-hmm. Jeff said, hey, I'm going to offer you North Indy. But just so you know, this is not a DVM promotion. If someone earns the division manager position in Hoosier, Indiana, from another division, you will move territories. So will you be willing to move? Or if I put you there and you don't get promoted, you know, are you going to leave? And I said, honestly, in the moment, I just said, dude, whatever, because I wanted to go to North Indy. I don't remember what I actually thought. So I remember going there as a DM. Jeff was the DVM for that time, for that year. And I really leveled up myself thinking like a district manager for the first time instead of like an office manager. I had realized that I was an office manager my entire career, but I was not developing people to be better than me. I was not developing programs. I was not documenting anything. It was kind of just like, let's use our passion, grit, and adrenaline for 4 months of the summer and then hope I've got something left for the rest of the year, which wasn't horrible. Didn't get horrible results, but we weren't breaking any records either. So I think blessing and a curse, right? Like, because I knew the promotion was available, I really started to take myself and my business more seriously. But man, I wish I didn't wait for a stupid promotion.
Sure.
I could have been performing just as well as a district manager and making just as good money at the time and doing all these things, building my business. But I waited on a promo. But the positive is it really forced me to say, I want to be able to tell Jeff I'm ready for this.
Sure. I know you're saying I waited on the promo, but the promo was really a carrot there for you. So
absolutely.
You waited for the right carrot, but you went and got that promotion. I see Jeff Bry chatting already in the box. He's going, no luck. It was totally earned. Once that carrot was out there, though, you went for it.
Yeah, sure. But not everybody's going to have that. So
sure.
I would encourage you to make your own carrot, within your own organization.
Well, not everybody gets to work with a Hall of Famer like Jeff Bry either. So just go back for a second there. So he's your acting division manager, and he was one of the best division managers in the business when I was running an office. Talk to me a little bit about some of and I know he's here, so we'll embarrass him, nuggets, leadership principles that you've learned from Jeff Bry that still serve you today, either from there or now he's saying be nice.
So I think what I saw from Jeff that I did not see up until that point was really giving whether it's a new manager or an assistant manager, anybody, giving them everything in one spot and saying, here's everything you need to go be successful this summer, this campaign, whatever. So whether it was calendars or the PR program being documented, exactly what you're going to do, working backwards and finding out exactly how many you need on staff to be able to accomplish things down to the very, very, very second of every day. He really, really pushed me to think about those things, which I hadn't before. In the past, it was just kind of like, we're going to spend a bunch of money on this. I'm going to work really, 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 really hard. And man, we're going to sell X amount of dollars this summer with nothing to back up why that was going to happen.
Just passion and moxie. And so you're describing like documented systems. Now, was this something that like the scrolls were there and Jeff Bry just handed you the scrolls, or was it more
with some things, with some things, and two, his view of how you coach a brand new manager and how you coach a veteran manager, with a branch or a new DM needing to just give them, hey, here's what you do. If there's anything that you want to adjust, hey, let's talk it out, but here's exactly what you do, versus with a veteran, like a Tina Marie, like a Jake Doherty. It's hey, here's my foundation for the team. I want you to spend a couple of days working on what you think this looks like for you. And then let's talk about it. Jeff really encouraged me to be directive with brand new people. And I was way too flimsy and flexible with brand new people, because not just because I want to be the nice guy, but I think some of it was wanting to be the nice guy. And some of it was, I don't want to control. Well, I don't want to control, but I need to influence. If I don't give them anything, what the heck's going to happen? So there was that. And I think how Jeff viewed influencing development throughout the division and how he accomplished that through touches, through meetings, that's something that I had not really witnessed before. I never really thought about what's the purpose of this event from a division manager perspective, from a divisional perspective. Why are we running it? Why are we doing it?
And so why are we doing it? Why are we running it? Because we've got a lot of district managers here and even new branches. And if we want to give them a little nugget here on why are we having a division meeting in May, for example, is one coming up, right? So why do I need to get as many of my people there?
So what I do is I always work backwards from the Super Bowl of summer and just say, okay, what do we need to do to make this the most epic situation ever? The way we view our SC2 that is the springboard of now we're going to convert these guys and girls into Leadership Academy. And so I want the biggest pool of candidates possible at SC2. So if I work backward from that, the meeting that creates the biggest push and the most top performers is our divisional 10K Alliance meeting, which is we want to have it 1 week before our big phone jam to set up SC2. So how do I get as many people at our 10K Alliance meeting as humanly possible? If I would need to do 10K Alliance interviews a week to 2 weeks before that. How do I get people to actually want to do something like the 10K Alliance, which is not easy? I need to have a meeting to be able to create buy-in. So that's why we have the June division meeting. It's all about SC2, the 10K Alliance, and TLA. Okay, now that's for our June recruits, all of our high school students that just got done, our big June recruiting surge. What about my college students that in Indiana and Michigan anyway, they get done end of April, beginning of May? That's why we have the May division meeting to be able to retain those guys and turn them into leaders for the month of May and June. So that way we've got plenty of people at each of those meetings. So it's just working backwards from there. And then the placement of those meetings. When are our teams going to be the largest for that group I'm trying to influence? So things as a DM, I would look at and just be like, there's a meeting and Nadine said everybody needs to be there. So
you didn't know it was push week until Nadine sent a message.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And I think now it's like, man, I wish I would have understood why. And she probably told me, to be full disclosure,
Sure.
but I wish I would have known, like, I wish I would have got like how this, and then helping my DMs understand what I think I heard Justin Donald say this. Would you rather want my coaching and leadership or my 3% pay off your office? And if the answer is ever 3% pay off your office, that's, I need to improve. I need to get better. What do I need to do? And I tell my DMs that I'm your assistant manager. I am here so you can leverage me and you can work through me. Get your team to the meetings and I'll do such a huge part of your job, or I will at a minimum tee up all these amazing conversations that you should be having afterwards. So I think if I were to do that over again, it's, man, if I as a DM could have viewed my DVM like that versus she's running a meeting, she needs people to be there. Now they can't sell for the day, but whatever. She's gonna be mad if I don't get them there. Yeah.
So you're describing working backwards. So one of the things you start doing when Jeff Bry comes in is you're like, all right, I'm going to work back from Super Bowl. If that's going to be the zenith of the summer, I got to work back to that 10K Alliance. I got to work back to the phone jam before that Alliance. And I got to work back to that meeting to get them excited for that Alliance phone jam. And then I've got to actually get them there by having the division meeting in May.
Yep.
Did I miss anyone there?
No, good. Yeah, you got it.
Team meetings, I guess, that lead into those events.
Yep.
So event to event management being utilized for development, and it sounds like an intensity and not missing an opportunity to connect with those people there from all learning from Jeff Bry, giving 100%. I have in the notes there. Anything else there that before we move on? Any other? He's here. This is your opportunity to impress your boss. This is your shot. So
yeah,
Jeff Bry Nugget.
Last thing from Jeff Bry is never order orange juice at a hotel for a meeting ever. Just don't. A gallon of orange juice at a Marriott costs like $65.
Yeah.
We found that out one day. Yeah. Don't do that. Otherwise, yeah.
It's just
great
not value. He's not afraid. That's fun. So you tell me about then when you had that breakout year. So this would be, I think, especially everybody's like orange juice. It's already trending now.
The team WhatsApps are blowing up with guys. If you're not on Brett's thing yet, don't. He's talking about orange juice, and just forget it.
You're not missing anything. Tell me about the breakout year. Tell me about where this all coalesced. It started to make sense. You start working. You start getting systems. You start working backwards. You're actually doing strategic planning, by the way, if you wanted another word that was sexier than working backwards.
Yeah.
So you start doing these things. When did it all kind of click for you and lead to a breakout year?
So spring before that summer, my last summer as a DM was 2013. And I had to scramble to find a staff because I was literally moving to a new territory right after January program. You usually use January program to create your summer staff. That wasn't happening. So I was moving there with no one. I called every past rep. I mean, I did everything I could, did some lead work. What a great transition, Dan Cassetta. Sarah Young was one of the first people to reply to me and go, I'm in Utah working with a startup, but I'm moving back home in March. And I said, oh, while you look for your next job, dude, do you want to help me build this thing? And we can work. And so I got Sarah tied in. Stacia Hewlin, who some of you might know, had been out of the business for a while, reached out to Stacia, was like, hey, I really need a recruiter bad. She's like, what could you guarantee me for the summer? I'm like, minimum $3,000. I can guarantee you $3,000 AM pay. But I think you can make a lot more. She's like, all right, I'm in. Cool. So she's in. And then there was one girl, Kristen Van Osdel, that was a new rep. She was like the first group that I ever trained in Indy. And she had a little bit of success. And I had basically a napkin talk with her, talked to her about, hey, here's what I think you could do for the summer. And she's like, all right, cool, I'm in. So I had a crew of 3 hyper committed individuals, which I've had a lot of different staffs. I've had staffs of 10. I've had staffs of 3. I don't care the size of the staff as long as I know they're all in. If they're all in, I will take a group of 3 that are all in over a group of 10 who are, it's the thing I'm doing this summer. So then what I did, again, for the first time, I was really thinking like a district manager versus an office manager. For the first time ever, 2013, I was like, I'm going to make a separate Google Calendar for every single one of these people, every single second of every single day for the entire summer. And I'm going to give it to them before the summer even starts. So for the first time ever in my career, I gave every single staff member a detailed hour by hour. Here's exactly what you're doing every single day. Here's when your days off are. I learned from Earl Kelly long ago, you can get more done in 6 days than 7 days. I even believe that for branch managers personally, but they all had a day off. So they knew, hey, there's light at the end of the tunnel every single week. I asked them about vacations all throughout the summer. When are you got family stuff going on? I don't care what you have going on. I just want to know what you have going on. I got so the moment it was time to go, everybody knew exactly what they were going to be doing. I had a meeting with every single one of them about, hey, here's your schedule, but what's your objective? What are you responsible for? Now, what are you really at the end of each week when we have our office staff meeting, we're going over all of our numbers from recruiting and sales. What am I going to look to you to influence and be responsible for? I went from the team meeting being the most important meeting that I ran every week to my office staff meeting becoming the most important meeting I ran every week. I would say that was probably the biggest change that I noticed. And that happened on its own, not because I made the decision to, but because when you're truly trying to be a district manager, not an office manager, your office staff meeting should be the most important meeting you run every week, in my opinion. I was able to navigate and influence a lot of change immediately during that summer. And then I think I had my first, I think 50K week, 60K week, got up to like a $72,000 or $73,000 week. And then we always had our office staff meetings, I want to say on like Thursdays. That week, instead of having an office staff meeting, I said, guys, we just had our first 70K week. Let's go to Panera. We're going to do lunch. Forget the meeting. Well, the next 3 weeks we did like 45 grand. And it lasted like for 2 weeks where it was like, every time I went to the office, you ever walk in, Trent, somewhere and you feel it. Nobody has to say anything.
It's not great.
Everybody was kind of at each other's throats a little bit. And I went from like wanting to stay extra past when my calendar said, I went from wanting to being excited to be there earlier than I said I was going to be, to like leaving at the first chance I got. So at our office staff meeting after, 2 or 3 weeks of that, I just started the office staff meeting. I want to start off and I want to tell you guys, I'm sorry for being a bad leader. Sarah starts crying. Stacia's bawling. Kristen's like, no, it's my fault. And I think where I learned that was Carl Gedris, one of Dan's old DMs.
Look at that.
Take all the blame, deflect all the praise. And for the first time ever, I really, truly, maybe the second time ever, I really, truly took all the blame in our office, even though I could justify that it wasn't all my fault. But it is my fault to put them in a position and not call them out earlier and change it.
Sure.
So I think that was the second big breakthrough that summer.
There was a saying, Don Frieda founded Vector, he used to say, if you're not happy with your people, don't blame your people.
Yeah.
And that is stuck with me since I was 20 years old. If you're not happy with your people, don't blame your people, right? You're leading them, and it's your job to make sure you're leading them. So I'm so glad that you didn't go in there and beat them, because that might be your, right? That might be your first tendency,
There were moments
right?
where I thought about that. Yeah.
Just shaming them and just making them feel bad about what happened. And that's a very easy itch to scratch, isn't it? It's very tempting. But instead you went in there and you took responsibility, and look what your people did. They did the same. They took responsibility. They all dove in. This is an interesting discussion as we're going into summer, because everybody's great at being great when everything's going great, right? Everybody's great at being great when everything's going great. And here we are going into the summer, and everybody's got lots of energy in April, right? So what did you learn from that summer? And was some of this just a matter of hitting the wall and just kind of being, we took a foot off the gas? You described that one meeting, but there was probably other little slippage moments or breakage moments before that. What kind of things have you done since then to ensure that doesn't just crash like that?
Don't be afraid to have tough conversations. I guess not be afraid. I'm going to be afraid. I don't look forward to tough conversations, but there's a movie. I think it's called We Bought a Zoo. It's got Matthew Damon in it. Whether you like the movie or not, who cares? But when he's asking out his wife for the first time, he's never met her before, and he sees this beautiful girl stand by it. He goes, 20 seconds of courage. And I just tell myself, dude, 20 seconds of courage, because once it's out, all right, now we're good.
Sure.
Heart might be fluttering a little bit, but I've seen what happens if I wait to have those tough conversations. I don't know what you guys do. What I do is I hold it against that person passive aggressively, and they don't know why. I lash out at them in the middle of a meeting, and they don't know why. They will say something and it'll be a little bit wrong, and I should probably be like, oh no, hey, let me help you. Let me do. And instead I'm like, no, that's completely incorrect. Let me change it for you. So if I don't have those conversations, it's really hard. If I do have that conversation, it's still hard, but I've seen this has got thrown around a lot. Choose your hard. Okay. Choose. Gosh, I got to choose that one. So how do I impact that? I have to try to put myself at my peak state at all times, because I'm not, by the way,
sure.
But if I'm not actively trying to, I'm not going to have the energy or the courage to have that conversation. Matthew Kelly, he is one of my favorites. He said, fatigue makes cowards of us all. And he's so true. Am I sleeping 8 hours a night? At least 6, but am I trying to sleep 8 hours a night? Am I getting to bed before midnight? Am I drinking a lot of water? Am I just eating food? In the summer, it's so easy to get to the end of the day and be like, I ate air today. Air is all I ate today. Making sure I put time, like actually put eating time in my schedule. Trying to limit myself. I love one great cup of coffee in the morning, but then after that, I try not to do any caffeine at all. And I think it comes down to, once you're aware, something you taught me, Trent, once you're aware you've got a shot, once you've made yourself aware of something, now you just need to be in a good state, physically, emotionally, spiritually, to be able to do it. Because if you're not, you're just you're not using a great cheat code that you could.
Let's camp on that for just a second, Brett, because I know there's been moments where we've talked and you've been so triggered that you're like, I can't have this conversation right now.
Yeah.
So I know earlier that you said, hey, I've got to have it right away. But right away doesn't necessarily mean if I'm triggered, right? If I'm in rage state, or if I'm in, right?
Just because
state.
Something is important doesn't mean it's urgent.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So how do you find that balance then? Okay. So there's something that they've done wrong. Maybe let's say that they've slept in, they've come in late. This is easy
let's
one.
reframe it to say, how do I try to find that balance? Because
right.
If you ask any of my managers, I don't always. Yeah, there are moments that I don't.
You know, and then
okay, so let's do 2. How do you try to find the balance? And then what do you do when you don't?
Yeah, and I'm with you, brother. I hate, because I'm a coach on this stuff and miss it all the time.
It's the worst. It's like being, and this is like being a pastor at church. It makes it even harder, because now you're feeling guilty every time you don't do what you're telling everybody to do. Yeah. So how do you take care of it when you don't do it the right way? I'm telling you, just an easy phone call and apology as soon as possible.
All right, let's camp there for a second. Walk me through this. You're saying when you mess up, not if, right? So when you mess up, your people, what can they expect from you? When you, let's say you lashed out in anger, you said something that was, maybe they needed a 3 and you came in at a 10 during the meeting, right?
Yeah.
What can they expect from you?
Yeah. So I think the quickness with this is really, really important. And it's a phone call, hopefully not a text. Sometimes I can talk myself into thinking I don't have time for the call. Try to make the call.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's
So it's
just,
not a
hey,
text. It's not an email.
yeah, no, I don't want it to be.
Right,
Uh, I, I think there's a moment where you can say, well, can I justify acting this way because I'm their boss?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, another thing we've talked about before, Trent, is Paul said, there's a difference between justifiable and permissible, right? Is this justifiable? Yes. Is it permissible? Is it going to benefit everybody? No. Okay. So this is not, it's way easier than you might think. It's just calling and saying, hey, remember when I said that? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was, Riley and I were just fighting about something, or the kids had a really bad morning. Not that they need an excuse or I should make an excuse, but I want them to know I did. Or if I was just being a butt, if I was just being just a bad dude in the moment, it's like, dude, I just had a bad day.
Sure.
Sorry. Will you forgive me? And they always have.
Sure.
Because they're human too. So I think it's as simple as that. As far as how do we try to balance that? I think.
Let me pause you for a second here, Brett,
Yeah.
because I think it would be easy for people to undervalue what you're describing here. When you hold yourself accountable and have short accounts with your people, when you've messed up and you own that with your people, that honors your people. So if people are saying, for example, why are there so many excelling women leaders in Michiana? I think part of this is that when you mess up, you're owning it. It's not that you're holding perfection out there, you're striving for it, but when you mess up, they fully can expect that you're going to be humble and contrite and you're going to own it. And that actually is very courageous leadership, because that's a hard conversation to have. And it doesn't get easier when you're talking about your kids. So you're talking about, hey, Rose, daddy messed up. Sometimes dads are wrong and kids are right. And when you have that conversation, Rose feels honored. She feels elevated. She feels like you really do have her best interests in mind, is even if it's intuitive, she knows that that's not normal. Other daddies aren't apologizing to my friends. Do you know what I'm saying? And other managers typically don't take that road as well. And even it's funny because as you continue to model that, Brett, people texted me the other day. They said, permissible beneficial. This is from 1 Corinthians 6:23. I was like, yeah, it's funny, right? I'm like, yeah, I don't necessarily quote that, but yeah. So when you're talking about Paul the Apostle saying, hey, there's a lot of things that are permissible for me to do, but I'm going to hold myself to a higher standard, which is what's beneficial. Right. So what's the top line going to be? And can I get away with one here? I probably could and not have to handle it. But in case there's beef, I'm going to reach out, initiate, and make sure that we're good. And that's just got to keep those lines of communication free. There's got to keep those things fresh. And I just want to commend you, brother, because it's one thing to know it. It's another thing to be striving to implement it, man.
Yeah. And I think knowing too, there are moments that I need to be tough on people's actions.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be clear. That's not what I'm talking about right now. There are moments, and again, if I make it personal, okay, that's an issue. Sure. But if I'm just being tough on people's actions, there are moments that we have to let people hurt.
So you're saying you're intense. Like you'll bring that same Nadine McGowan, like, dude, killing you with my eyes, and this is a thing. You done messed up, Balaki. We were quoting this earlier. Right? You're going to feel my wrath, right? So there are times where you bring the wood.
Sure. I try to do it. I try to do it through questions. I try to talk the same way I'm talking to you right now. If I'm being tough on someone,
sure.
It's not personal. I don't need to make you feel bad. Dad Brett can come out for sure. And that's a good thing because I care and I want to have standards on our team.
So you're describing the difference between like punishment and correction. And I know that they can sound the same depending on how you grew up, right? It's not designed to be a front row dad's moment here, but like depending on how you grew up, if you messed up, I got the spanking and that just felt like punishment. If it's designed, if this hard conversation is designed to move them forward, get them unstuck, not beat them because I'm angry or frustrated, but actually I might bring a fire to it because they really messed up and they need to be better. And I want to hold them accountable and I want to restore them and help them move forward. Right. Yeah. That's actually the more loving thing, isn't it, Brett? And that's hard. That's, again, not easy to do either. You're not doing that because it feels good. You're doing that. That's hard.
Those
That's
are
the real
conversations
work.
that anybody wants to have. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that necessarily, but I'm looking forward to the change that it might create. And everybody's different too. Everybody
Sure.
you lead is going to be different. They're all going to respond differently, and I think you got to feel that out.
Something I love from John Kane. He says, to treat people fairly, you have to treat them differently.
Mhm.
Right. So you might have somebody on your team, Brett, that like just beats themselves up. Like they just you don't even need to say much. Like my oldest daughter, she's the compliant one. Katie, I just need to look at Katie and she gets it. She's good, right? The youngest one, we needed to tune up a little bit more. We needed to be a little more emphatic and use the word directive with Rebecca, right? But so to treat people fairly, you've got to treat them differently, Brett. And I think it sounds like you've made some mistakes with that, trying to treat everybody with one standard in the past.
Yeah, I mean that's a very quick way to lose everyone rather quickly, and I think it comes down to not enjoying developing your people, viewing it as your job. I remember a time that I was like, man, I wish this was a job.
Yep.
I wish it was just a job, 9 to 5, show up, do my job. You do your job. We'll go home. Everybody feels good. That's not what you want. It's just not what you want. And I think the difference is that like, you got to actually know your people. You've got to get time. That's how you can start to really help them in the way that Trent's talking about is you've got to know them. And I think that, this past year, the amount of recruiting that we had was great. But the amount of lost opportunities for conversations and to really know our people, we got to look for intentional ways to do that this summer. Because I don't know about you guys, the conversion on my end of started to work with somebody to they're a staff member this summer, it wasn't as good as the past because we weren't intentional about creating those opportunities like we have been before.
Sure. Can you talk a little bit about things that you're going to do differently this summer?
Yeah.
I believe last week after the Masterclass or 2 weeks ago, J. Brad Britton asked me, he's like, Trent, what are you seeing going into this summer? And I said, last year we innovated because we had to. There was a certain intensity, and you described, moxie earlier of just we had to do it, and we did, and it was kind of beautiful. I don't know if it's duplicatable quite like that, and there's not going to be that super intensity us against the world like there was last year. So when I see that and I go, hey, there's areas of opportunity like you're describing, like connection points, that even if it has to be virtual longer than we wanted it to be, or a hybrid if you're getting people together sometimes, but what are some of the innovations that you're bringing to ensure that we don't have that breakage this year and that we actually call more of the people into TLA, et cetera?
Yeah. So here, and I was talking to Miser about this, Jake Miser, Buckeye division manager in Ohio. And he made a really good point. He said, I don't want to talk about the unemployment rate and how it's helped us and COVID and whatever with recruiting, because I don't want people going in with that idea. Last summer, yes, we benefited from a lot of things outside of our control, but how much did we benefit from us being scared to death that things weren't going to work? I think we benefited a lot from being like, we could sell 0 this summer. We got to go hard.
Brett, you worked harder than any other spring I remember last year.
Not even close.
Right. And not just
even
you.
close.
I mean, so many of you on the call.
I think it's fair to say
down.
that just about every DVM and RM we're putting in hours.
The summer started when we got back from Paris.
How else do you create an Apex out of nothing and a Zoom training out of nothing in the matter of 3 weeks? It doesn't happen. I mean, there are people you guys will never know the names of that did things for us last spring that we would not have what we have right now without it. So I think for this summer, Trent, the way I'm viewing face-to-face versus Zoom is it definitely, I want to be cautious to make a blanket statement. Everywhere is different. Every state have different regulations. Some states have different counties. So again, all under the idea that you're going to need to tweak based on where you're at. But here's what I'm thinking. And here's what I think. If I were to ask to bet on something, this would be my bet. Things change with new information, but I think teaching and learning in big groups never has to be done in person ever again, in my opinion.
See that again. That's amazing.
Teaching and learning in big groups never has to happen in person ever again. If your product is amazing, that you're providing, your interviews, your trainings, your team meetings, forcing people to get in person to learn and grow in a big group, I don't see the benefit of that. Now, intimate settings, staff, maybe even a key staff, when it's intimate and small, man, I think there could be a lot of power in that. Social events for development, that's where I'm going in person as much as possible. That's where I'm having all my managers at a minimum, no matter where they live. If they live 100 miles away from their territory, once a month, they're doing a Saturday night team night out. So one of the benefits of this is we are cutting team night away from the team meeting. Team meeting. I have some managers who are going to do it every week because they're excited to. Separate night on Saturday, like 4 to 7 p.m. They're going to do a separate team night out. No learning, no teaching. It's all just time with people. And I'm really excited about that. So we're viewing anything learning, anything teaching in a large group. That's on Zoom, and I think that could always be on video. But to get that, like we talked about earlier, intentional time, really digging in with people and just getting time with them socially, that's the stuff that I really want to try to do in person as much as possible. And then the intimate stuff, hey, let's try to get people together as much as we can, as long as it doesn't become a roadblock from somebody being involved. So I think whatever you do on a teaching basis, you gotta offer something video for those that need to be on for video.
Wow, the hybrid, eh? Folks, we're going to transition in just a moment here into some of the new recruiting stuff that Brett and his team has been doing here. But post in the chat if you have any other questions, nuggets, points of clarification that you're looking for with regards to development or even some of the breakout, the quantum leap that
I will say, Trent, real quick before I forget, on the hybrid thought. If you've never done anything hybrid, like some people in person, some people on video, it's tough to try to do two things at once. So here's what I will tell you. If you have some people on video, some people in person for anything, you choose which group you are running that event for.
Right.
You choose.
Your flag in one, right?
You just plant your flag on, is it for the people in person or is it for people on video? The other group will get a lesser experience, period. But they know that.
Sure.
When you try to do both, my wife always makes fun of me because, by the way, no one should multitask except for moms. Moms have to, and they're amazing at it. My wife's like, you can't do two things at once. You're like, you're right. I can't do two things at once. It ends up really being bad. So anyway.
I love it. So we're going to go down the road here because, Brett, you've really innovated some very exciting programs here. And, you know, for a lot of years, Midwest region was finding and tweaking and making things great that were created elsewhere. But you guys have been pioneering in the last couple of years, and that doesn't surprise many of us on the call. We're really excited about it. But talk to us a little bit about kind of the recruiting revolution that's been going on this past year, Brett. What are some of the scrolls there?
So Trent, do you remember the commercials? They were probably a decade or 2 decades ago, where I can remember it clear as day. It's like BASF. We don't make a lot of the products you buy.
We make a lot of 40 years ago, dude.
we make a lot of the products you buy better. I would not call us pioneers. I would call us, we are the BASF of vector marketing. Eastern region is, it's not even close.
They're bleeding edge. Yeah, I would agree there.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, almost every document, every program on recruiting that we have is, I found something of theirs and I said, okay, how can I make this better for us? Maybe not better for them in the way they think, but the way I think. Yeah. So just let me start with that. All those guys do an amazing job. And if it wasn't for them, there's no SMRE program at all. So
agreed. And yet many of them are having their people call you guys now. So
walk us through. We can ping pong as much as you want.
Just saying. I mean, and this is good. This is a great season.
So here's why I think in our organization, in our division, why I think we've taken off with recruiting like that is because to the disappointment of my veteran DMs, I try to simplify everything. I want everything to be very, very, very simple. But Brett, if you put this here and that there and this and these 45 things, I know we could, and you should, but that is not the divisional program. We need to keep things simple as humanly possible. So it starts there. If something's not simple, it's not going to scale. So I got to keep it simple. So I took a lot of the things they were doing and I tried to just create a step-by-step. Here's what you do first. Here's what you do second. Here's what you do third, fourth, fifth. Now you've got SMRAs and you're good to go. I showed my team back in, this was October. We do J Pro. So, and it's more like December, January program now, but October we're leading up to it. And I'm like, man, this is Logan Franke in Motor City outside of Detroit. He started messing around with SMRAs. And here, Trey Ketchum gave a message to our DVM staff in August, and Logan ran with it. Without Logan running with it and getting some results, it never happens. He's getting results immediately. He's like, dude, this is the best return on investment I've ever made in the business. Like, amazing. So I said, okay. So I'm watching Logan. Parker jumped on. I took all those documents. I was like, how can I just really simplify this? So every DM can benefit and do really, really well with this. So we did that, and I can share our folder here. I'll put this in the chat now. There's no secrets here. Okay. Everything that I have,
it's all open source. Look at you.
Everything I have for the business is that link right there. Everything, just go bookmark it. Wow. I update it constantly.
Elon Musk does that. It's all open source. Look at you, man.
Dude, because I want people to share with me, you know, and if you find something, you're like, dude, I'm getting better results tweaking this, tell me. So I went through and it was like, okay, how do we do payroll? Okay. How do we find SMRAs? Okay. I was the guy that was like, Eastern region's doing it. And they're just spending so much money. They're just so good at just spending a lot of money. They're just recruiting. And they're just so good at recruiting everyone and anyone. That's not how I want to run the business. And it was so.
Wait, are you saying you would justify how you're not running No, I used to do the same thing, by the way.
I'm saying exactly what you're saying.
Kill me every year.
I'm saying exactly what you're saying. I looked at it and made an excuse as to why I was working for them and not for me. I was looking at someone doubling my sales and going, yeah, but
but are they enjoying their lives?
Right. So then I go, okay, this is a thing. So just made it step by step for every manager. How do you find them? Okay. Once you find them, how do you reach out to them? How do you get a touch? How do you get them scheduled for an interview? How do you go from the interview to making sure that they show to training? What do we need to train them on? And then how can we make the job really, really simple for them? I will say, and there's lots of different viewpoints on this. The only thing we are hiring SMRs to do is to DM and post on their social media. We do not hire anyone as an SMRA. I'm not saying it's wrong not to do this, just our philosophy. We're not hiring anybody with the intention of them eventually PR calling. They could end up doing that. They could end up doing a lot of things.
Sure.
But in the interview, we were telling them, hey, at the end of your personal network, there are 3 things that could happen. You could become an executive SMRA and help manage, train, interview, and find new SMRAs.
Sounds pretty awesome.
You could become a scheduler, which is, hey, there's people interested in the job. We need somebody scheduled for interviews.
Also
or
pretty good.
You could become a sales rep, and you already know how awesome that job is because you heard about it during X, Y, and Z. Or they hadn't heard about that yet. But anyway, then during training, I reiterate that, hey, at the end of your personal network, here's the 3 things that could happen. Once someone actually gets to the end of their personal network, now their DM or branch can swoop in and say, hey, like we talked about in training, here were the 3 options that we were going to consider. If it's somebody they really want to retain in that program, they can offer them one of the first 2 positions. If it's someone that just isn't going to cut it to be an hourly or in leadership, it's, hey, I would love to offer you the opportunity to be a sales rep, the position you've been advertising for, and that X, Y, and Z you recruited and made X, Y, and Z amount of money. Would you be interested in that? Now it's up to the SMRA to decide, do I want to have a great experience the last few months and take off and get something great from a resume? Awesome. Good luck. Have fun. Do I want to do something that was offered to me?
What is your conversion rate roughly, Brett? Because you're describing a real soft sell, right? So it's not railroading them into it, but I've got to imagine it's still pretty attractive. It's still pretty.
Here's what's funny. This is something we were so worried about. And I know Logan's philosophy on it. He just promotes it as a 4 to 6 week internship.
Wow.
He's like, hey, 4 to 6 weeks. I think as long as you're promoting reality, I always say people don't care if they're shoveling manure, as long as you tell them they're shoveling manure. As long as they know what's happening and what's going to happen, That's what's important.
I just learned that, man. That's amazing. I'm this years old. That's amazing.
So I think that we haven't even gotten to that. We were so worried about it. We haven't even gotten to that point with most of our SMRs. Most of them quit or go to do something else or get let go before we even have that conversation. So usually an SMRA that gets to the end of their network is somebody we really want to keep anyway. And we want to develop around, and we want to, it's a rare conversation that we even need to have.
How many people would you say are becoming sales reps from the SMRA program, roughly, percentage-wise?
Very few.
10%?
Less than 10%.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So
now, we haven't had this during a summer campaign. We have only had this during a winter break, where that's only 2 months of messaging. 4 months of messaging, we might have more of that. We have had a few SMRAs while they are in SMRA ask, can I get in a leadership academy? We've promoted them in the leadership academy. They've gone through that. They become assistants as well as SMRAs. They're getting AM pay. So we've had some of that.
All right. Crazy question. It's just emerging to me, so I'm just going to ask it. If I'm crazy, unpack it for me, right? Would you rather have a killer SMRA that becomes an executive SMRA or a 10K fast starter?
SMRA.
What is this voodoo you're describing? Why?
So do you remember? So let me ask you, when you were a branch manager, brand new branch, and somebody said your best receptionist needs to be the most important person on your team, not your best sales rep, what was your initial thought?
Oh, I believed it. Because Joe Cardello taught me that way. It was easy.
Right?
It was
it's
easy.
the same thing, Trent. It's no different. No different.
And yet, I would venture a guess that most of us are probably more adept right now at getting a 10K fast starter, or at least more concerned about getting the 10K fast starter than we are that killer SMRA.
If you haven't gone all in on the SMRA program, absolutely. That's where I was 5-6 months ago. For sure.
Wow. Quiz time, by the way.
Okay, let's just take a vote here. Okay. So I got the gallery view up. Raise your hand if you would say you're pretty deep into the SMRA program. Raise your hand. Okay. Ryan, Bianca, hi Bianca, and Patrick. Okay. Jesse, if you got to go like that, probably not deep, but you're exploring. I like it.
Curious.
Okay. So Ryan, Bianca, and Patrick, raise your hand. Okay. Now put your hand down if you'd rather have a 10K fast starter than an amazing SMRA. Okay, Trent, I think we're good. I think we got it.
That's fascinating. All right. So I think we're sorting it out here. Wow. Okay. I'm a little blown away by that. That's pretty fired up. People don't care if they're shoveling manure as long as they know. It's pretty fired up. I'm getting some nuggets here, Brett Wiggins. What else do we need to know then? If somebody's starting from zero scratch, or they're starting with it hasn't gone great, maybe they've even made the commitment on this call, how does somebody get this thing ramped up and fast? SMRA.
No, let's go. Let's share the screen here. Let's go.
He's got documentation now. I forgot. He's not just going on Moxie anymore.
So I'll go to the link I shared, and then
you got Cutco Drive. All of the other managers are trying to use that. They can't use it.
Just got it. V Cutco Drive. Yeah. So I stole the Bitly. I have Cutco Drive and V Cutco Drive. We went virtual. Had to add the V in front of everything at some point. Now it's just life, so we can stop. All right. So I shortcutted this on the front of our folder. Okay. It's just step by step. If you literally know how to do nothing, it's just, I do number one. Okay, here's what I need to do. I do number two, finding SMRAs, how to find them. I'm not going to go through the little doc. You can do that. We find SMRAs. After we find them, we interview SMRAs. I would highly recommend, we just swapped to using a Calendly link. Thank you, Grace Marrero and Parker Greavy, for showing us why that matters. We use a Calendly link to schedule all of our SMRA interviews. Great return on in no investment of time. And here's the outline to the interview. I was so nervous to tell SMRA interviewees what they were going to be doing. But again, they don't care what they'd be doing. They just want to know what they'd be doing.
Yeah.
So it was like, you're going to message every single person in your network. And they were like, oh, that sounds great.
That sounds amazing.
I'm like, yeah, it does, totally. Doesn't it? After you interview them, here's our training. Okay. Wow. I also, another link. Let's let's give you another one in the chat. This is basically every important function that we have ran in the last 6 months. So the link I just put in the chat is a link to a recording of our calendars, our training. Now that's going to update because we're on Vector Impact now. So I'll record a new one April 26th, 27th. How to train new callers, SMRA training that we just ran last week. I think it's the best one we've ran yet. I think that'd be really worth your time. Next level SMRA training. Lane Allen is he is the Luke to my Yoda, okay, with SMRAs. He is everything SMRA. A lot of the stuff we use, a lot of the templates we have, he created at some level. Him and Peter Schneider are like BFFs, and I didn't even know it. So a ton of stuff on here that I think you guys get a lot out of. Parker Greavy, SMRA sourcing, if you want to know how to find the best. Peter Sarver, we're not getting rid of Social Jumpstart. Peter Sarver covered that. Tons of great stuff on there. So anyway, let's go back to SMRs. Okay. So training, if I were to say, okay, if you're like, Brett, what's the objective of training? What do you do? It's really simple. I get them really excited about the sales rep position and about our company. I don't even talk about what they do until the end. I tell them within 5 minutes of training, my goal in the next 20 minutes is to make you want to be a sales rep. I don't want you to be a sales rep because your job's more important than being a sales rep. But don't be surprised if 20 minutes from now, you're like, I applied for the wrong job. And by the end of that 20, 30 minutes, you're like, oh my gosh, the sales rep opportunity for a college student is the best thing since sliced bread. That I want you to feel that way because that's the position you're going to be advertising for. Then, okay, so let's just, what is the SMRA position? Copying and pasting. That's, I don't need to teach them in depth on training how to copy and paste. I don't get them excited. I get them excited about what they're doing for people, what we do for people. Now they want to do that. They want to be able to be involved in that. So that's training. And then these breakout slides. So what I do is I have each manager gets a breakout to be able to cover these things with their SMRAs. They cover payroll info. I'm going to get props to, I can't remember who said it. It was on the Facebook group. Somebody was like, hey, how are you guys paying your SMRAs this summer? Venmo has a limit weekly. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Didn't know that.
Highly recommend Zelle. Anyone can use Zelle. 90 banks in America have direct connection with Zelle. So the transaction happens right away. If their bank doesn't participate, they get it like 2 days later. But there's no limit, or if there is a limit, it's like 25 grand a week or something. So highly recommend. We started encouraging SMRAs to create a Zelle account with their bank and use that for payment instead of Venmo and Cash App. But it's also payment info. They share their top 20 lists. So what we do in training is every SMRA makes a top 20 list. This is inside of the folders already. And they create a top 20 list for sales reps and a top 20 list for SMRAs. And we three-way text with them, all 40 of these people within their first week. We've got that is where a bulk of our base of our team will come from at the beginning of summer is these. So they do that in the breakouts. They pick their first shifts. I have a really cool, you guys will like this. There it is. So this is an April, early May budget calendar. I'll show you what folder this is in. Anything in yellow, you create a copy, and then anything in yellow, you fill in all your finances, any expenses you have. And then what it will pop out at the end is this magic number down here. Once you put in how many SMRAs you on staff, it will tell you how many hours per week you can afford to spend on SMRAs through the middle of May until you start getting great summer paychecks.
So this is like a year ago, companies were talking about cash runways that they had available and COVID, et cetera. This is the cash runway app.
This is the cash runway app that looks like a Google Sheet. Yes.
It's a Google Sheet. Yeah. Basically it's functioning like an app already. It's beautiful.
I don't know when it was. It was when I was in Fort Wayne as a DM. So 2012, I realized I don't know my cash flow. I can't make confident decisions because I'm just going, That's a good decision. Let's spend money on it. Or that's a bad decision. No, spend money on it. And I think that this gives you the confidence. It's like Betsy Crouch. I was so lucky. I've been coached by some really great people. Betsy Crouch was my rising stock coach initially. And we were talking about budgeting and we talked about fun. This right here for these guys.
That's funny.
And she goes,
the
Brett,
former district manager worked in John Kane's office at Vectory's headquarters before she worked for
was a pivotal district manager in Great Lakes when Chris Heigl was #1 in the world.
She's genius even today, right?
She's great. Yeah. So she goes, what's your fun budget? I go, what do you mean? She goes like, how much money are you going to let yourself spend on fun? And I go, oh, I don't have money right now.
No fun this summer.
She goes, Brett, in the next month, you're not going to go out with your friends. And I go,
well, I'm probably going to go out.
Yeah. And she's like, so if you go out with your friends and you give yourself a 0 fun budget, you're just going to feel guilty the whole time. Wouldn't you rather tell yourself I can spend $100 and feel really good about it? In fact, Brett, if you give yourself $100 budget, you'll feel better about it. And you'll probably spend less money than not giving yourself a budget. And she was right. So, my point with that is give yourself a budget for the SMRA program and then go. Don't feel bad about the withholdings release. Don't feel good. Go. You've already done the math. Okay. Okay. So this is in, just real quick before I forget to show you, inside the drive, there is a summer prep 21 folder that I'm having. Basically anything that's like, oh, this is summer right now. I just wanted a really easy place for everybody to find. It's in the summer prep 21 folder. And if you go down to SMRA summer, it's inside of there. I think that's a really, really good, important one. Okay. So training SMRAs and then managing. Oh, this is a good one. Oh, wow. This is great. Running an SMRA shift. We have been working together as a team.
Do you make all these, Brett, or do you just, you're Bass? Okay.
All of these
you've made.
A majority of
you've
all
adapted
this,
even, but these are all yours.
District managers have made most of this or been a key influence on all of them. Yeah. So it's like, I will create the initial program and then Jade Blett out of Fort Wayne will go, hey, Brett, I made a copy of that and I've been making these tweaks. Here's what we're using. Okay. We're replacing the document. You're getting the best results. Let's do it. So and then what happens is when you create a culture of sharing and telling people, hey, here's the program. Here's the ingredients. I learned this. So I don't watch Joe Rogan a whole lot, but he had Dave Chappelle. He had Dave Chappelle on, so I couldn't not watch it.
You gotta watch that one.
And if you remember the Chappelle show, maybe you don't. There was a character called Ashy Larry, and that's what I mean. I don't know his real name to this day. I still call him Ashy Larry. And
y'all got any more of them? Is that the one? Is that the guy?
Say it again.
Y'all got any more of them?
Oh, no. That was one of Dave's characters. This was Ashley Larry was the guy that he was riding like a Cadillac semi truck in one of the skits. I don't know. Oh, wow. So Larry is talking to Joe and he's talking about he's really into cooking. And what I love about watching comedians in serious settings is you see them as a comedian and you think they're a moron, but they're really funny. If you're that successful, you've got some skills. Okay. Smart, yeah. So he's dropping knowledge and he's like, talking about how he learned to cook. And he's like, yeah, I take the recipe. I don't change the ingredients, but I change the seasoning. And I was like, oh, that's good. So I encourage all my team, don't change the ingredients, but you can add your own seasoning and see what works best. So that's what a lot of my managers do is they'll take the ingredients, they'll take the foundation, they'll add their own seasoning. And before we know it, we got an even better thing than we started with. So this one right here, running an SMRA shift. The way we are doing it this summer is there are 3 shifts a day, Monday through Friday, 1 shift on Saturdays. So that is 16 shifts a week that SMRAs can choose from. And 1 district manager is in charge of each shift. So that way, people aren't just hanging out on Zoom all day for SMRAs. They got to run interviews. They got to do PC, all that good stuff, run training. So when they run a shift, here's what they do. I will tell you, if you've never done this before, you are the executive SMRA. My branches, my new DMs, they are the executive SMRA. Okay. So what we do, this is how we kick them off. Okay. We kick off the veterans who already know what they're doing. We'll do a little icebreaker. We do about $30 in bonuses each day. Oh man, I'm getting all excited. Hold on. Let me Let me show you.
It's fired up.
They fill this out. Trent, if I'm going too far down any rabbit holes,
you go, man.
Okay.
This is how the sausage is made.
So this is what they fill out at the beginning of their shift. This is Jenna Shoebridge is our divisional SMRA manager for summer.
Former killer branch manager.
Oh, dude, Jenna's amazing. We are lucky, and we're going to be really lucky if we can find a way to pay her enough for her to stay another year. We're doing our best, Jenna, I promise. So they fill this out at the beginning of shift, and it's basically, what are your goals? Okay. And then it'll tell them, hey, what are you doing today on shift? What are your goals? And then when it's their halfway point, they fill this out. But anyway, my point in showing you that was this. Whoever's running the shift has this up, and there's shifts going on right now. So you can see this in live time. Whenever somebody earns a bonus, we try to give $30 of bonuses away each shift. Okay. So, like 3 $10 bonuses. And it's usually based on one of these things. Most messages, automatic $10, or anybody over 150 messages, you get a chance at $10. Touches, all that good stuff.
You don't even guarantee it. It's a chance at $10. You guys are geniuses.
Dude, I'm telling you, when everybody knows they got a shot, there's a lot of power there.
Yeah, there is.
You know? So then when somebody wins a bonus, they put it in here, and they're filling this out all throughout. They're listing out the touches they made, the amount of accountability that Jenna Shoebridge has added. Before, like in November and December, it was just awesome because it was working. We're like, dude, just get on Zoom and send some messages. Let's do it. And it was great. But now, because it's at a scale that it is, where some managers have 20, 25, 30 SMRAs, which I'm not condoning any new managers to shoot for just yet, but they're able to really track it and understand what's happening. So then they do their 2-week review. Okay. At the end of their first 2 weeks, all I care about is 2 things. Did they send at least 50 messages per hour? And did they have at least a 5% touch rate? Meaning every 100 messages they send, we got at least 5 people interested in the job. And they're able to have this, go through it. They're able to go through their stats. They're able, there's a ton of things that I could show you how we're tracking, but it allows and we tell them there's a 2-week trial period in training to protect us and them. It protects you from doing a job you hate more than 2 weeks. And it protects us from being forced to work with somebody who doesn't do what we told them to do.
Wow.
And we have that 2-week review, and 99% of the time it's, dude, awesome job. Keep it up. Let's pick your shifts for this week. 1% of the time it's, hey, there's something missing here. There's something missing.
And you give a chance to correct.
I just had a great, Ryan Mitchell's on. I just had a great conversation with Ryan Mitchell about this. It's, hey, I'm going to give you a week if you're open to the coaching and changing what you need to change to fix this. Sometimes they say, cool. Sometimes they're like, nope, I'm actually a liar. I'm getting on shift and not doing anything. I'm going to
suck.
And that happens. That's
I bet.
That's not Vector. That's not 18.
I didn't really do anything.
That's running a business and working with people. Okay. That's a cost of business. So don't worry about that if that happens.
Sure.
But yeah. And then final decision, good to go. So
Brett, do you still pay that person? Person says, hey,
absolutely. In fact, even if I have a pretty good idea, they didn't get on a ship, but they said they did. That is so worth the $10.
You just pay it.
Just pay base pay. Same thing. If I caught someone doing a demo for somebody not qualified the first time, I'm still paying that person.
You pay it.
Why? Every time.
Why? Because you sound like a crazy person right now. Why do you pay that?
So, okay. Let's say
I'm not disagreeing, by the way. I'm 100% on board here.
Let's say I don't pay them. Let's go through that. Let's say worst case scenario, I don't pay them and I was right. They lied to me, but I paid them. But I don't pay them and I was right. They're not going to tell anybody I was right. If they get asked about Vector or Cutco in the future, if they talk to somebody at corporate, if they want to make a big deal of it to somebody, I did not pay them. Let's go worst case scenario the other way. They didn't work. I paid them anyway, and they lied to me. Let's say 5 years from now, that person grows up and somebody asks them about Vector and Cutco. You know what? I was a young idiot, 18-year-old, and they really tried to do right by me. Is that not worth $10? We complain about what pops up when you search Vector on Google and all the money we think. you're going to complain about 10, 15, 20 bucks out of your own pocket to guarantee we've got somebody who's a Vector Cutco fan afterwards. Always go above and beyond what you have to do. It'll pay off in the long run for sure.
Brett, I know that you live really close to your values here, and that's one of those biblical concepts, is the idea that give money to all who ask. And this is one of those scenarios. Now, if you play that one out, give to everyone who asks. So if you drive up to an intersection and somebody's just squeegeeing your windshield or not, and you give them money, part of the reason to not give them that money is, then I'll have less money, or they're just going to spend it on fill in the blank, right? And you're saying, I just pay it.
I've seen what happens to myself when I go the other way.
When you just pay it.
I've seen what happens to myself when I am stingy.
When you don't pay it, right? How's it feel?
Here's the way I view it, Trent, is my time is way more valuable than trying to catch one person to save $8.
Wow.
If I could pay $10 to get an hour of my life back, wouldn't you do that every single time? You would do that every single time. You would do it every single time.
I've got to bet every one of those dollars that you're investing that way is way better than any SEO dollars we're investing.
I'm just making
that right there.
I tend to fall on that side of, if it's going to make my life easier to where I can focus on things that actually matter, that's a very easy decision for me every single time. And I can feel good. That feels good. I like that.
Right. Right. Feeling good feels good. It's underrated.
Yeah. By the way, Katerina, if you go to file, make a copy, you can make a copy of anything in any of those folders. So just file, make a copy, and now you have one you can edit, do all that.
I love it. Because somebody else had that question.
Where can I find the link to the folders?
I got you. I'm redoing right here.
Yeah, Cutco Drive. He's the reason that none of us can use Cutco Drive on.
Okay, so in here, and then Katerina, I think if you go into
would you mind showing us on share your screen?
Yeah.
Show us how to do it.
So if you go to, and for the forms, Katerina, you might not be able to. And the reason you might not be able to is because I don't trust 600 people to
your stuff.
Dude,
yeah,
somebody accidentally messes up one. Yeah. So here's what I would recommend. I would recommend going to this link right here. Here, I'll post this. Go to this link. I'll put it in the chat and just go through it as if you were an SMRA and create your own form right alongside it. That'd probably be the best way to do it without me.
Yeah.
It might take less time to just recreate it than to find out how to
there you go. Yep.
Copy it, but that's a good word.
Thanks,
Folks, we're
really
going to go to it. Great question, by the way. I know Carlos was looking for the same. Ryan Mitchell's like, dude, Brett's all fired up.
Well, no, Brett. Ryan also, our divisional joke is whenever I get fired up or I act weird, they call me Brent, because that is, if your name is Brett and someone calls you Brent, there's nothing worse. So that's why he said Brent.
Nobody accidentally gets called Trent ever. I get Brent, I get Brett, I get the Bent Truth. I don't ever get accidentally Trent. That's fun. So I have a question for you, Brett, because I know that you've mentioned mentoring and coaching a few times here. Tell me the lifetime career dollars that you've invested into coaching up until now, or roughly just a guesstimate.
So, here's what's, by the way, I love that you asked this question because you don't know the answer to it.
I don't actually. I have no idea.
And my answer is either going to make you really happy or extremely piss you off. One of the two. So I'm excited.
Let's find out.
Go. $0. We have the best leaders in the entire world at our company. Why would I need to go spend money? If I'm utilizing all the leaders in Cutco that are available to me and I'm still not getting what I want out of it for free, cool, I'll go. But I've always found it.
But what if you could spend $12,000 a year to work with somebody that sold $1 million 1 year with us and then failed out?
I'm not here to judge anybody. And I think there's some good things that come out of it, but you're going to find what you're looking for. And I would just argue you're not looking in the right place.
Okay. So then let's go here. Where have you gone to get, and this is not a way of plugging me because I'm not looking for clients, but where have you gone to get mentoring and leadership development and coaching in Vector in your career? How about early? I think I was your first. I could be wrong there. But.
Yeah. So actual coaching was Trent, and I got connected to you through Nadine.
So your division manager referred you to me,
yep.
and there was a process. And so if you're looking to get coached by Trent Booth, you need to go through DVM, who approaches me, and then we sort out who gets to do that.
I have reached out. So here's something I did. This is, you guys will love this. So when I was at DVM, it was like my second or third year. Mm-hmm. I'm sure Trent can remember the conversation. I had it. I was like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. I was spinning my wheels.
I remember where it was.
Now, why was I spinning my wheels in hindsight? I was doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. So then finally, I don't even want my first SLC, district manager, first SLC. I'd been a pilot, a successful pilot, great branch. And at the end of my first summer, I had the trophies, I had the standings, but I didn't have the bank account. Bad financially, wasn't in a good spot. I was a sprinter, Betsy Crouch would call me. I was a sprinter. And
you
actually
described throwing money even at the business to get the business, but not necessarily getting to keep a lot of it.
And I would show up big for big campaigns. And then we literally, as a first full year DM, I had a $45,000 week the first week of January, and we sold $3,000 the second week of January because the push was over. So I was not in a great spot. I was so frustrated. And I want to walk back one statement I made. I have paid for rising stock coaching. Good. So with Betsy Good. And then Adam, I don't know, the coaching portion, probably a couple grand, maybe $3,000-4,000 over the course of 4 years.
Wow. Okay. So it's like $100 a month ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I did was, let me see if I can find.
That's appropriate coaching, fully endorsed by the company, by the way, 100%. If you're going to spend $100 to figure out how to keep more of the money that you're making, I'm a 100% yes right now. Everything past that, I'm a hard no right now, folks.
I needed it. I needed it. I was being
facetious earlier, but Brett, carry on.
And another thing, I've also done counseling. Highly recommend counseling to anybody, even if you're not messed up like I am. Highly recommend. Awesome experience. Didn't have to pay for it though. Exhausted research.
Insurance usually covers, right?
Insurance can cover it. If you're a member of a church, you can get free Christian counseling just about anywhere. Even if you're not a member there, I bet if you walk in and say, I need counseling, they'll do it for free. I can almost guarantee it.
I've benefited from that.
Yeah.
Right. So yes. So counseling. Wow.
Questions so what I did, I said, you know what? Instead of getting mad, I'm going to create a bunch of questions for DVMs I respect. And I wrote down 13 questions that I wanted to ask them.
Great.
And they were the things I really felt like I wasn't either taking advantage of, or I felt like I just really sucked at. And the last question was, what do you think I need to hear? In case I wasn't asking the right questions, I wanted to make sure that they got me what they thought I needed to hear after hearing me ramble.
Brett, are these phone calls? Are these in person? Are you just pulling them aside at SLC? How are you getting these done? One-on-one calls?
So what's some of them were calls and some of them were FaceTime, but none of them were actually in person.
Wow.
Actually one was in person. Nadine was in person. She had already left the business and I wanted to ask her.
You're saying for Vector people, you're not necessarily like pulling a DVM away from their people at SLC.
I got contact info or sent them a message on Facebook or Instagram and said, hey, I'd love to get time. And
would you do me a favor? Would you go back to the menu of people you asked? Because this is a lot of them have CLSK episodes. That wasn't a thing back in the day, by the way. The CLSK episodes actually cover a lot of this stuff now.
They do.
Drew Frank, John Wasserman, I love it. Justin Donald, Mike Cassetta, Nadine McGowan. So 3 of those are alumni now, but at the time they were current in the business. So if you were to take your basically top 5 division managers, it's fascinating, Brett, that you've done this because I don't know that I showed this to you, but when I was a brand new district manager, I reached out to the top 20 on the sales report and I did the exact same thing. And by the way, some people didn't get back to me. I'm going to say about 8 didn't get back to me, but 12 did. Here's what's fascinating. People that did totally get back to me: Earl Kelly, Scott Dennis, Dan Cassetta, Mike Muriel, guys that are still here, guys that didn't get back to me. You wouldn't know their name. I'm not going to say it because they're not here. Right. But what's fascinating, J. Brad Britton, people that responded back to me and gave me the time of day. What's fascinating in our business is that, yes, Brett is busier now than he was 10 years ago. So he might not be able to get back to you right today, but he will get back to you or present.
That's the Vector way, right, man. That's what we do. That's just what we do. Vector. And I think sometimes, because I don't know about you guys, for me, this is the only real job that I've ever had. So anything good or bad about Cutco or Vector, I would always tie to it's a Vector Cutco thing. If something sucked, I'm like, oh man, it sucks because it's Cutco. No. There are things that suck everywhere. Okay. And then there would also be things where I'm like, ooh, that's really good. That's a really, really good thing. People are so helpful. No. Some of them are just because we're here. And that's what I realized was there wasn't anybody for me that I reached out to that didn't want to help. That's not normal. And I've had a lot of friends over the last 14 years that have left to do other things. And they'll say you can't replace the culture. It's just not happening. Yeah. I've had friends leave and make a lot of money elsewhere. You can't replace the culture, especially that culture of learning and helping each other.
I'd like to close a loop too, because I was kind of ripping on coaching earlier. Folks, hear me right. When the time is right, coaching is outstanding and it's a tremendous tool to help you move forward. But I do find that too many district managers are not taking full advantage of all the resources available to them. Their DVM, Changing Lives, Selling Knives, the Masterclass, their own division meetings, frankly. To be able to really move forward, right? So before you go to coaching, couple thoughts. One is make sure you're crushing that. Two, make sure you're crushing journaling, because that's what your best counselors and coaches are going to have you do anyways, become more aware. And number three, make sure it's an investment that you can afford. So until you've got things like your business emergency fund, your personal emergency fund.
Do you have what I tell my guys, 4 months of savings for business and personal? Do you have your Roth maxed out for the year? Do you have, if you can do an HSA? There's so many things to make sure that you've taken care of.
What's an HSA for all those of us who don't know what it is?
Health savings account, which you might be able to, might not be able to, depending on which type of healthcare you have. By the way, if you're a DM without health insurance, you should do that.
Also get that.
Yeah, kind of important.
Insurance is designed to save you from the career-ending injury. You have auto insurance. Most of us don't think about business insurance. It's less important if you don't have a physical office. But you've got home insurance, I hope. And
actually, Trent, I just learned this. That office insurance is actually, it's more of an incident insurance and pays for a lawyer should you ever need one. So even without a physical office, all my managers have office insurance because of all the other things that it provides this summer.
And I'll defer to JBB here, but you might also consider umbrella insurance, especially now. Again, insurances, especially if you follow Dave Ramsey or any of those guys, insurances are designed to prevent you from taking the big hit on the career-ending injury. Outside of that, you don't want to invest through insurance. Oh, I'm making enemies right now. All right, so I'll go right back to Brett. Listen, Brett, final word here. It's 2:24. You've been absolutely crushing it. If all we did was the last 45 minutes, by the way, worth it. I mean, worth it. I'm so fired up. And yes, by the way, I want to make sure that on the podcast, if you hear this later, Brett says that Ryan Mitchell's like, I'm a lucky young DM on my parents' insurance. Yes. As long as you absolutely can. Your parents are paying for it, man.
Let them
enjoy
pay that
it.
cell
I think
phone
until you're
bill.
26, if I'm right.
Maybe it's 26 now.
I pay for my daughter's Easy Pass and her cell phone even. Dude, go hard as long as you can. And listen, when you send your folks on a cruise later, you won't be the first Vector person to do that because they took care of you on the front end. Then you take care of them. You live at home, even better. Dude, I moved out when I was 18. Never been back. All right, so last word, 2:25. We're going to hit stop recording at 2:30 for sure.
Okay.
But Brett Wiggins, man, thank you for bringing the very best of you. Final thoughts, and I'll take a look at the chat just in case there's something there that I've missed. Final word is yours.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I think that something that I have tried to help managers learn how to do, because I think I was so bad at it, was don't worry about controlling people. Really try to get yourself in a position to influence them. It's okay to let people fall and mess up and learn along the way, whether it's an AM or a new rep or one of your branch managers. We take way too much credit when our people do well. And we take way too much credit when our people don't do well. We take way too much blame when they don't do well. Reality is you can't control anything. I don't care. You could argue with me forever. You control nothing. You could get hit by a bus as soon as the Zoom ends. You control that. You don't control anything. You influence just about everything though. And once you start thinking that way, you start having different types of conversations with the people on your team, with people that you lead, and you start showing up without expectations and really, truly helping people because you're not trying to control the outcome. I texted Albert. I had to deliver some good news to somebody a while back and some bad news to somebody a while back. And I was really struggling with how to deliver this bad news to somebody. And one of the tips he gave me was don't try to control the outcome. And he's so right. I don't need to control the outcome. I can influence. I don't need to control though. So I think that's one philosophy that I'd love to leave people with, Trent, is just influence everything, control nothing. That was a 3 a.m. conversation in my kitchen with John Fiacco when he came all the way to Indianapolis to visit me and coach some DMs before he had his national position. And we've always been buddies. Thanks for supporting me today, John. And I've never forgotten that. I think influence versus control would be how I think is the best way to lead.
Well, folks, here's what I would suggest. If you're leaving here inspired to get a coach, John Fiacco is very much filling that role the way that I used to once upon a time. He does have
He's gonna fill up quick.
Roster. He's got
He's
a lot.
gonna fill up quick.
It might even need
now.
to be a group, but I'm just suggesting here, if you're asking your DVM, that would be the person to ask about. Don't be afraid to ask for me as well. How that usually shakes out, and I'm going to hit stop here in just a moment, but how it usually shakes out is your DVM recommends it to the RM, and RMs reach out to me, and I've got a list that I'm working from to add people to coaching. Brett Wiggins, absolutely, what an amazing call here, and I'm going to hit end now and have some thoughts for you afterwards. So